The rain was merciless that night, soaking the cracked sidewalks and pooling in the broken veins of a forgotten city. The air stung with cold, the kind that sank deep into the bones, and the street lamps flickered as if they too were shivering. Lena's coat clung to her body like a second, soggy skin, and her boots squelched with every step as she hurried down the narrow alley behind the bakery dumpster, searching for salvageable bread before the morning trucks arrived. She didn't expect to hear it. A sound barely louder than the rain, but unmistakable, a soft, desperate mewl. Her breath caught. She turned, heart already tightening. There, huddled beneath the rusted lip of a dented trash bin, was a black cat. Small, thin, trembling. Its fur was plastered to its fragile frame, and its eyes, strange, golden, locked onto hers with a haunted awareness. "Oh, sweetheart," she murmured, kneeling slowly. Her fingers trembled as she reached out. The cat didn't run. It just stared, as if it had been waiting for her. When her hands touched its soaked body, a shiver ran up her spine. Not from the cold, but something else. A sensation like electricity, like an echo of something ancient brushing against her soul. She shook it off. "You're coming with me," she whispered. She tucked the cat inside her coat, cradling it close to her chest, feeling its tiny heart thrum against hers. Lena's apartment was barely more than a closet, the walls stained with age, and the heater only worked if she kicked it 3 times. But it was dry. Safe. She lit a candle, wrapped the cat in her only dry towel, and spoke softly to it while heating water for tea neither of them would drink. "You've got the eyes of someone who's seen too much," she said, crouching by the towel nest. "What were you doing out there alone?" The cat didn't answer, obviously, but it blinked once, slowly, solemnly, as if acknowledging the question. Hours passed. The storm raged outside, and Lena fell asleep curled beside the cat, her hand resting gently against its back. It was warm, comforting, the first real warmth she'd felt in days. She dreamt of shadows, of blood, of a woman's voice like velvet and thunder, whispering her name as if it were a spell. When she woke, the candle was out, the room was cold, and the cat was gone. Lena sat up fast, heart pounding. Clover. She hadn't meant to name it, but it had come to her easily. Lucky. She checked the windows, the corners beneath the bed. Nothing. No paw prints, no sound. Just silence. And then knock, knock. 2 slow, deliberate taps at her door. Her skin prickled. No one ever knocked at this hour. Barefoot and wary, she approached, pressing her ear to the wood. Nothing. She opened the door. A woman stood there. Tall, pale, drenched in elegance and the faint scent of roses and rain. Her eyes glowed crimson under the flickering hallway light. Her lips were blood red, curved into something like a smile but colder. More dangerous. "Good morning, Lena," she said, voice like silk drawn over a blade. "Thank you for taking care of what's mine." Lena's breath caught. Her mouth opened, but no words came. The woman stepped forward without waiting for permission, and something invisible pressed against Lena's chest, holding her in place. Not painful, just inarguable. "Your kindness has been noted," the stranger continued, circling the tiny apartment with a gaze that missed nothing. "But debts must be paid." Her eyes slid back to Lena's, and for a moment they softened. 7 nights. At my estate. That is all I ask. Why? Lena's voice was barely audible. "Who are you?" The woman smiled again. "You may call me Lady Andrea." The way she said it made the name taste forbidden. "And you, Lena, have touched something that belongs to me. The familiar you rescued. It is not just a cat. It is bound to me by blood and spell. And by sheltering it, you've stepped across a line." "I didn't know," Lena whispered. "Doesn't matter," Andrea replied, softly now. "But you showed mercy. That intrigues me. Come tonight. Or I will come again." She reached out, brushed a wet curl from Lena's forehead with fingers that were too cold, too gentle. 7 nights, she repeated and vanished. Not walked away. Vanished. The door slammed shut behind her. Lena stood frozen, heart a war drum in her chest. She didn't know what she'd just agreed to. But part of her, deep, secret, ashamed, was already wondering what Lady Andrea's hands would feel like if they lingered. The taxi stopped in front of iron gates taller than any building Lena had ever entered. They rose like the jaws of some sleeping beast, half swallowed by creeping ivy and fog so thick it swallowed the street behind her. She hesitated, clutching the straps of her coat tighter, wondering, not for the first time, if this was a mistake. The driver said nothing. The moment she stepped out, the car disappeared into the night like a ghost fleeing something it refused to name. The gates creaked open before she touched them, as if they knew her, as if they'd been expecting her. She stepped inside. The path was long and winding, lined with ancient trees that bent inward, forming a cathedral of shadows above her. Somewhere in the distance, an owl cried. Her boots made no sound on the gravel. Her breath came in puffs of steam, but the air held no wind. The mansion emerged from the mist like a monument to forgotten things. All sharp angles and towering spires, its windows like watching eyes. And at the top of the stone steps, Lady Andrea stood waiting. Tonight she wore black silk that shimmered like oil, her dark hair cascading in waves, lips still stained that same impossible red. The sight of her stole Lena's breath before a single word passed between them. "You came," Andrea said, with a voice that made the night lean in closer to listen. Lena nodded, her throat dry. "I don't know why." "You do," Andrea murmured, descending the steps. "But you're not ready to admit it." Her gloved hand extended. Lena stared at it, then slowly placed her own inside. Andrea's grip was firm, cold, but the touch sent a rush of heat through Lena's veins, as if the temperature of her body was rebelling against logic itself. "This way," Andrea said, leading her through the vast double doors. The interior was a world apart. Chandeliers of bone-white crystal hung from vaulted ceilings. Candles flickered in sconces, shaped like thorns. The walls were lined with books that smelled of ancient languages and velvet decay. Every shadow moved as if breathing. The mansion pulsed like something alive. "You live here alone?" Lena asked, her voice small. "I'm never alone," Andrea replied, eyes glittering. "But no one else here breathes." That should have chilled her. Instead, Lena found herself following deeper into the house, through a hallway that narrowed like a throat. At the end, a dining room. A single long table. Only 2 chairs. One covered in shadows. The other waiting for her. The table was set with food, roasted vegetables, fine breads, delicate cheeses. None of it felt real. "Eat," Andrea said, gesturing for her to sit. "It's all real, if that's your fear. I had it prepared for you." Lena sat, heart thudding. "You don't eat." Andrea tilted her head, feline and amused. "Not food." Silence stretched between them as Lena took a small bite, trying to ignore the way Andrea watched her with the intensity of a starving thing. "Why me?" she finally asked. "You could have punished me. Hurt me. You're a monster?" Andrea offered. "I've been called worse. But I'm also old enough to recognize something rare when I see it. You took in something broken and cursed with no promise of reward. That kind of mercy." Her voice dipped low. "It fascinates me." Lena swallowed hard. "So this is what? A test?" Andrea stood slowly and crossed the room in measured steps. The click of her heels echoed like a heartbeat. She stopped behind Lena, close enough to touch, but didn't. Her breath grazed Lena's neck. "It's whatever you let it become." Lena turned her head slightly, and their eyes met. Andrea's were impossibly red now, glowing like coals in the dark. "Tell me to stop," she whispered, her voice laced with an edge that felt both dangerous and reverent. Lena didn't speak. Couldn't. Her pulse betrayed her, thundering beneath her skin. And then Andrea's fingers brushed the side of her throat. Not hard, not claiming, just curious, reverent, like touching a hymn. "You're afraid," Andrea said softly. "But not of me, of yourself." Lena's breath hitched. "What do you see when you look at me?" Andrea leaned closer, her lips ghosting the shell of Lena's ear. "A candle in a sea of blood." A soul that hasn't dimmed, even after being soaked in sorrow. I want to know why. I want to know what it would take to make you burn. The moment shattered when the chandeliers flickered violently. A howl tore through the mansion, inhuman and close. Andrea's eyes snapped to the darkness beyond the dining room. Her expression turned sharp, lethal. Stay here. What was that? Lena asked, standing. A warning, Andrea said, already halfway gone. You've been noticed. And just like that, she was gone again. This time, she didn't vanish. She moved, so fast the air itself bent around her. Lena stood alone, trembling, in a house that had begun to whisper her name in the cracks of the walls. The silence left behind in Andrea's absence was not the silence of peace. It had weight, texture, a vibration that coiled around Lena's spine like a serpent learning her shape. Every candle in the dining room dimmed at once, shadows thickening in the corners as if gathering breath. Lena stood perfectly still, remembering Andrea's words, "Stay here," but something about the house made stillness impossible. The air pulled at her, beckoning like a half-formed thought. She stepped away from the table, her feet soundless on the cold marble. The doors leading out of the dining room were open now, though she hadn't heard them creak. A narrow corridor stretched ahead, one that hadn't been there before. Her pulse quickened. "Andrea," she called softly, but only the house replied, groaning like it had memories trapped between its walls. Curiosity, or maybe foolishness, guided her forward. The hallway was lined with portraits, tall, gilded, impossibly old. She slowed to examine them. Each painting was of a woman, regal and haunting, and every single one had Andrea's eyes. In one, she wore armor, a bloodied sword in hand. In another, a crown sat heavy on her brow. In yet another, she stood among corpses, her face serene. Lena's breath caught. These weren't ancestors. These were her. Different centuries. Different wars. Same mouth. Same gaze. Immortal, she continued, heart pounding, until she reached a room that should not have existed. There were no doors, no hinges, just a black glass panel in the wall, as smooth and reflective as oil. A mirror. Except it didn't show her reflection. Not truly. In it, she was standing. But the version of her inside the glass wore no coat, no fear. Her eyes were darker. Her mouth curved in a knowing smile. The mirror. Lena reached out and touched the surface from the other side. Lena stumbled back. The reflection remained still, watching, whispering something her ears couldn't grasp but her bones could. She turned and ran. She didn't know how long she moved through the shifting halls, but the house no longer followed logic. Doors appeared where none had been. Hallways stretched impossibly far and then vanished. The air pulsed with invisible heartbeats. And then she heard it. A voice. A gasp. A growl. Not distant, near. She followed it through a heavy velvet curtain into a room lit only by dying embers in a stone hearth. Andrea lay on the floor. Her black dress was torn, her skin pale to the point of translucence, and blood, dark, thick, not human, pooled beneath her. She was breathing hard, clutching her side, baring her teeth at something unseen. "Andrea." Lena rushed to her side, falling to her knees. Andrea's eyes snapped to hers. "I told you not to follow," she hissed, but her voice cracked, less fury, more desperation. "What happened?" Lena asked, pressing her hand against Andrea's wound. The flesh was already knitting together, but slowly. Too slowly. "It found you," Andrea whispered. "Something that wants what I protect. It smelled your warmth, your kindness. It doesn't understand mercy. Only hunger." Lena tried to lift her, but Andrea caught her wrist. "You shouldn't be here. You should run." "And leave you like this?" Lena said, her voice trembling with emotion she didn't understand but couldn't deny. "No," Andrea stared at her, something unreadable in her gaze. Then, quietly, "You're not afraid of me?" "Should I be?" "Yes," Andrea murmured, "because I'm beginning to crave something I haven't tasted in centuries." She reached up, brushing her fingers along Lena's jaw. "Not possessive. Not seductive. Just aching. You smell like light, she whispered. Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. And I've been drowning in darkness so long I've forgotten what light does to me. Lena's breath stilled. Then take it, she said, unsure where the words came from, only that they were true. Andrea's eyes widened. Her hand trembled against Lena's skin. And then her mouth was on her, not on her lips, but lower, her cold lips brushing the side of Lena's throat with reverence, with restraint, with something like worship. She didn't bite. She just lingered, breathing her in. And Lena didn't move. Because in that moment, in the center of a cursed mansion with monsters in the walls and blood on the floor, she felt something terrifying and beautiful, safe. Andrea pulled back, her face close, her voice barely a thread. Don't offer yourself so easily. You have no idea what I might do with a gift. Then teach me, Lena whispered. Their faces were inches apart, the air between them charged like before a storm. If I'm in danger, I want to understand it. If I'm yours, I want to know what that means. A flicker of something ancient and broken passed through Andrea's expression. Her lips parted as if to speak, but the flames in the fireplace roared suddenly to life, casting monstrous shadows on the wall. Andrea's eyes darkened. He's not gone yet. You need to leave this room. Not without you. I'm trying not to hurt you, Andrea said, her voice sharp now. So don't tempt me. Lena stood, heart aching, and helped her up. Andrea leaned into her, unsteady for the first time. One night, and already you've changed the shape of things, she whispered, almost bitterly. What are you, Lena? Just a girl, Lena said. Then, why do I feel like I'm bleeding from inside every time you look at me like that? Andrea breathed. They stood like that for a breath too long. And then Andrea vanished again, her form melting into mist. Lena was left alone in the flickering dark, with a mansion that twisted around her heartbeat and a memory of cold lips against her throat. The next thing Lena knew, she was waking in a room she hadn't entered. The bed beneath her was impossibly soft, sheets of silk clinging to her skin like warm breath, and the ceiling above was carved with constellations she didn't recognize. Candlelight flickered against stone walls veined with silver. She sat up slowly. Her body ached, not in pain, but with the weight of too many emotions pressing at once. Fear, confusion, desire. Andrea was nowhere to be seen. Neither was the door. The room had no visible exits. Just a tall mirror in the corner, and the sound of wind sighing through something unseen. Lena stood. Her bare feet touched the cold stone floor, and the chill reached straight to her spine. She padded to the mirror, hesitating before facing herself. When she did, her breath caught. A mark now bloomed faintly on the side of her neck, just below her ear. Not a bite, a symbol, like a sigil traced in pale silver, pulsing softly beneath her skin. She raised her fingers to touch it, but it didn't feel foreign. It felt like something that had always been there, waiting to be revealed. She turned away as the air changed, thickened, like the room was exhaling. And then Andrea was there, appearing from nothing, but not like before. This time, she didn't vanish from shadow. She stepped through it, like the darkness itself had opened a door. Her eyes locked on Lena's, and her expression faltered for just a breath, something unreadable flashing across her face. You saw it, she said. What is it? Lena asked, voice low. What did you do to me? Andrea walked toward her, slow, deliberate. I didn't mark you. The house did. Lena frowned. That's not comforting. Andrea almost smiled. It's not meant to be. This place is alive in ways you can't understand yet. It knows who belongs inside it, who it wants to keep. And it wants me? Andrea's gaze darkened. It recognizes you. That's different. From what? From prey. The air between them went still. Andrea's presence filled the room like a tide, cold and overwhelming, and impossible to look away from. What does it mean? Lena whispered. That mark. It means you touched something you weren't supposed to, Andrea replied. And it touched you back. It means you can't go back to what you were before. Because of the cat? Because of me, Andrea said quietly. Because I let you close. Because you looked at me like I was still something human, and now the world has taken notice. Lena's heart pounded. You said 7 nights. Why? Because that's how long the spell will last, Andrea said. That's how long I'll be able to resist wanting more than I should. Her voice trembled, just enough to betray her. And after 7 nights, Andrea stepped close, so close that the hem of her gown brushed against Lena's knees. After 7 nights, I won't have the strength to lie to myself anymore. Lena's breath caught. And what do you want? Don't ask me that, Andrea whispered. You already feel it. You already know. Her hand lifted, fingers grazing the mark on Lena's neck. This house gave you that. It's a mirror. It reveals what's hidden. It shows truth. And the truth is, you've already let me in. What happens if I stop coming back? Andrea's touch lingered. You won't. How can you be so sure? Because I can feel it too. Her fingers moved, tracing along Lena's jaw, then lower, over her collarbone. Something has started. Between us. Something that doesn't end when the sun rises. Lena closed her eyes for a moment. Her body was betraying her, leaning into the cold, craving it. When she looked up again, Andrea's face was so close it blurred. You said you haven't wanted anyone in centuries, she murmured. What changed? Andrea smiled, not with her lips, but with her eyes. Sad. Hungry. You smiled at my familiar like it was worth saving. Like it deserved to be warm. Of course it did. No one's looked at me like that in over 500 years. Their lips were almost touching now. One movement. One breath. I'm not afraid of you, Lena whispered. You should be, Andrea breathed. But I don't want you to be. Then don't push me away. The kiss, when it came, was not gentle. It was raw, hungry. 2 storms colliding in the middle of something forbidden and inevitable. Andrea's mouth moved like she hadn't kissed in centuries. Not with this kind of tremble, this kind of restraint breaking down at the seams. Lena clung to her, hands in her hair, pulling her closer, deeper. And then, just as the kiss turned into something heavier, more dangerous, Andrea pulled away. Her chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. Her pupils were wide, glowing faintly crimson. I can't, she whispered, her voice ragged. Not yet. I need to hold on to the part of me that remembers how to stop. Lena's fingers were still in her hair. Then teach me how to make you forget. Andrea closed her eyes, visibly shaken. 7 nights, she repeated. I'll break if you don't. Maybe I want you to. That made Andrea laugh, low and broken. Then I'll ask again, Lena. What are you? Lena didn't answer. Instead, she kissed her again, briefly, like a promise. And then she turned and walked to the center of the room, where a door had appeared. As she crossed the threshold, she looked back once. Andrea hadn't moved. She stood in the candlelight like a statue carved from mourning. But her eyes burned, and they followed Lena all the way out. Lena didn't remember leaving the mansion. She didn't remember falling asleep. All she knew was that she woke in her own bed, the familiar stains on the ceiling above her, the distant hum of traffic beyond the thin, cracked window. But something was different. The city felt quieter, the air heavier. The shadows watched. She sat up slowly, running a hand down her neck. The mark was still there, glimmering faintly like moonlight caught beneath her skin. When she looked into the mirror above her sink, her reflection stared back with eyes that weren't entirely her own. Brighter, sharper, like she was seeing more than just color and shape, like she was seeing truth. Her breath hitched. She leaned closer, and for the briefest second, Andrea's face flickered behind her reflection, lips parted, gaze smoldering. Gone in a blink. Lena didn't scream. She just whispered, I'm not afraid of you. She wasn't sure if she meant it as defiance or confession. The day passed like fog, unreal and slow. People she passed on the street looked at her twice. One man dropped his coffee cup as she brushed past. A woman at the corner market stared like she'd seen a ghost. Lena kept her head down. Her body felt too alive. Her skin too sensitive. When the sun began to fall, her hands were already trembling. Not from fear, but from need. The second night had begun. She returned to the gates alone. No taxi this time. Her legs had carried her before her mind caught up. The mansion welcomed her in silence. The doors opened like breath, and the candles lit one by one, following her steps. Andrea was waiting. This time, in a corridor of glass and silver, wearing a dress the color of wine and dusk. Her hair fell in loose waves, her lips darker than ever, eyes glowing softly, like coals under ash. "You came again," she said, her voice low. "I told you I would. You said you weren't afraid. And I'm still not." Andrea moved toward her, every step unhurried. She reached for Lena's hand without asking, and Lena gave it without hesitation. "Then I'll show you something," Andrea said, fingers cool against hers. "But you have to promise me one thing." "What?" "That no matter what you hear, you won't listen too closely." The words made no sense, but Lena nodded anyway. Andrea led her through halls she hadn't seen before, long, spiraling corridors lined with mirrors covered in dark velvet cloths. No reflections, no past. At the end of the passage, they stepped into a garden that should not have existed. The sky above it was not night or day, but something in between. The trees were black-barked, their leaves a deep violet, shimmering with frost and starlight. Roses bloomed in wild tangles, but they were not red. They were silver, and each one pulsed faintly, like it held a memory. "This place," Lena whispered, "is part of me," Andrea said, leading her between the rows. "I planted these with blood. Each flower is a truth I've tried to forget." The wind moved through the garden like breath, and the roses whispered. Words. Names. Secrets. Lena stepped closer to one, her fingers hovering above a petal. "They're alive." "They're cursed," Andrea said. "Just like me." She stood behind Lena now, voice close to her ear. "They'll speak to you if you let them. But be careful. The past has teeth." Lena turned to face her. "You brought me here to show me this?" "I brought you here because this is the only place I can be honest." Her fingers reached out, touching the side of Lena's face. "Everywhere else, I'm playing roles. Mistress. Monster.
Queen."
But here, she guided Lena's hand to her chest, just above her heart. "Here, I am only what remains after centuries of pretending not to feel." Lena's pulse thundered. "Then tell me what you feel now." Andrea looked at her for a long time, like she was reading scripture written in the lines of Lena's face. "Terrified," she whispered. "Not of you. Of what I'll become because of you." Lena stepped closer. "Then become it." Andrea kissed her. Not with hunger this time, but with surrender. It was slower, deeper, like every part of her had been waiting to fall, and Lena was the ledge she'd finally leapt from. The roses around them shivered. One bloomed open with a soft sigh, and then another, as if the garden itself was reacting to their breath, their closeness, their heat. Andrea broke the kiss first, lips brushing against Lena's. "You don't know what you're doing to me," she said. "You don't know what you are to me." "Then tell me." Andrea hesitated. "You carry a light I thought I destroyed."
"And I
can't stop myself from wanting to bathe in it." "Then stop holding back." "I don't want to hurt you." "What if I want to be hurt?" The look Andrea gave her then was something between reverence and despair. "You don't even know what that means." "Then show me." "Not tonight," Andrea said, her voice soft. "The garden won't allow it. It's still testing you." "And am I passing?" Andrea took her hand again, interlacing their fingers. "You're not passing. You're changing it." They stood among the whispering roses, the wind carrying their breath into the air like smoke. Lena didn't know how long she remained there, only that when she finally turned back toward the mansion, her hand was still in Andrea's. And something inside her chest ached like a rose had bloomed in the dark and didn't know how to stop growing. It was the smallest touch, a single fingertip brushing the edge of a silver rose, but it shattered something. The moment Lena's skin met the petal, the air around her changed. The garden inhaled. The color drained from the sky above. The whispers from the other flowers stopped. And then the world tilted. Her vision blurred. She tried to step back, but her legs were no longer hers. She was falling without moving, drowning without breath, being pulled into something not entirely hers, memories not born in her lifetime, but burned into her soul, as if they belonged there. The garden vanished. The roses, the mansion, Andrea, gone. Darkness unfolded around her like wings. And in the center of that darkness, fire, screams, blood on white marble. And Andrea, not as she was now, but as a queen draped in crimson, eyes lit with war and grief. A battlefield. Bodies littered across frost-covered earth. Andrea knelt beside a fallen woman, raven-haired, sharp-boned, her chest torn open, her lips parted in a frozen scream. "Celine," Andrea whispered in the vision, her voice shattering with anguish. She pressed her forehead to the woman's, shaking. "I told you never to fight alone." The scene shifted. Another moment. Another memory. Andrea in a candlelit chamber, standing before a mirror, her hands stained with blood not her own. A whisper echoed, "You chose the crown over us." Then another. Andrea walking through fire, not burning, her face unreadable, eyes forward as a woman screamed behind her, "You will forget me, but I will never forget the taste of you." The vision cracked, like glass under pressure. And then Lena was back. She fell to her knees in the garden, gasping, her hands shaking violently. Andrea was there instantly, grabbing her shoulders. "Lena, what did you touch?" "A rose," she whispered. "It showed me." Andrea's face darkened. "Which one?" Lena raised her hand slowly, pointing to the silver bloom that now lay wilted, blackened, dead. Andrea went still. That was hers. "Celine?" The name tasted wrong in Lena's mouth, as if it had no place there. Andrea's eyes flared crimson. "You weren't meant to see that. But I did. I saw you. I saw your pain." "That wasn't pain. That was a warning." Andrea stood, stepping back. Her silhouette was all blade and shadow. The garden keeps the memories sealed for a reason. Some things should stay buried. Lena rose to her feet slowly. "She loved you." She thought she did. "And you?" Andrea looked away. "I thought she was all I had left. And now?" Silence. Heavy. Tense. And then wind. Cold and wrong. The roses began to tremble. The garden dimmed. The air thickened with dread. "Someone is here," Andrea said, voice tight. No, Lena turned slowly. "Something is here." And then they saw her, stepping between the rows of roses, as if she had never left them. A woman, tall and spectral, her long black hair trailing like smoke, her eyes like frozen moonlight. Her dress shimmered with darkness, and her smile was a scar across her face. "You remember me now," she said, looking directly at Andrea. Andrea tensed. "Celine, you left me to die." "You chose death," Andrea replied. "You chose rage. And you chose her." Celine's gaze snapped to Lena, who froze under the weight of it. "How quickly you replace what you ruin." "She's nothing like you," Andrea said coldly. "Oh, I can see that," Celine purred, stepping closer. "She still has a soul." Lena stepped between them, heart racing. "If you're angry, be angry at her, not me." "Oh, darling," Celine murmured, voice like a curse. "You have no idea what you've walked into. Do you know how many nights she promised me forever? How many lifetimes she swore we'd rule side by side? And now here you are, wearing her mark, tasting her mouth, thinking you're special." Andrea moved in a blur, placing herself between Lena and Celine. "You don't touch her." Celine laughed. Still so possessive. Still so foolish. "I didn't come to fight you tonight, Andrea. I came to warn you." "About what?" "About what happens when the past doesn't stay buried. I'm not the only one you left bleeding. And if she keeps opening doors she can't close," Celine stepped closer, her eyes boring into Lena's, "the house will stop protecting her. And with that, she vanished. The garden exhaled. The roses stopped whispering. The frost lifted. Andrea turned to Lena, her eyes wild with panic and something deeper. Fear. You need to go. No, Lena said. Not after that. Lena, listen to me, Andrea whispered, grabbing her face between both hands. This isn't just about desire anymore. You're in this now. Whatever binds me, it's starting to bind you too. Then untie it. I can't. Then don't send me away. Andrea pulled her close, resting her forehead against Lena's. I won't. I can't. But God's help me. I'm afraid of what loving you will wake up inside me. Lena didn't flinch. She reached up and kissed Andrea with everything in her. Fear, longing, confusion, defiance. And Andrea kissed her back like it was a vow. When they broke apart, Lena whispered, Then let it wake. The third night arrived like heat beneath the skin, restless, electric, impossible to ignore. Lena didn't wait for the mansion to call her. She was already standing at the gates before the sky turned dark, heart pounding with anticipation and a need she no longer tried to deny. The doors opened before she touched them. The path lit itself as she stepped inside. But something in the air had shifted. The shadows were heavier. The silence more intimate. The mansion wasn't just welcoming her now, it was watching. Andrea stood waiting in the grand hall, draped in crimson silk that shimmered like blood under candlelight. Her hair was loose, her lips a deep wine color, and her eyes burned with something unspoken. When she saw Lena, she didn't speak. She just stared. And then she crossed the distance between them in 2 steps, grabbed Lena's face in both hands, and kissed her like it was the only way to keep from breaking. It was fire and silence and need crashing all at once. You're early, Andrea whispered against her lips. Couldn't stay away, Lena breathed. Good, Andrea said. Because I'm done pretending this doesn't consume me. She led Lena through a corridor lit only by flickering wall sconces, deeper into the mansion's heart. The air grew warmer, thicker. Every step felt like crossing a threshold. I need to tell you something, Andrea said at last, her voice quieter now. About the cat. Clover. His real name is Mistress. He wasn't always a cat. He was a man once. A loyal one. Too loyal. Lena frowned. What happened to him? He offered his soul in exchange for my freedom, centuries ago. When a curse was placed on me, a binding meant to trap me in a cage of hunger and grief, he tried to save me. But the spell twisted. It didn't break the curse. It split it. Half of it remained in me. The other half took him. Lena's stomach turned. So, he's bound to you. More than that. He is the curse now. He carries it, protects me from it. But it comes at a price. He can only stay free when he's touched by kindness. That's why he came to you. Lena felt cold all over. And when I brought him in, I took part of the curse into me. Andrea nodded slowly. The mark you bear, it was the house recognizing your choice. You didn't just shelter a cat, Lena. You took on a piece of my burden. And now, the house, the curse, we all feel you. Lena exhaled. That's why I feel different. Why I feel connected to this place. To you. Andrea stepped closer, her voice velvet and regret. I never meant for you to be caught in this. I should have taken him back that night. I should have erased your memory, sent you away. But when I saw you, I couldn't. Lena reached for her hand. I'm glad you didn't. Andrea closed her eyes, as if the words hurt and healed her at once. But now Celine knows. And she's watching you. She'll come again. Not just to frighten. To fracture. Let her try, Lena said, defiant. I'm not afraid of her. No, Andrea whispered. But you should be afraid of yourself. Lena blinked. What do you mean? Andrea didn't answer. Instead, she led Lena into a room Lena had never seen before. It was circular, with a ceiling that opened into the stars, as if the sky itself was part of the architecture. There was a large velvet chaise in the center, and bookshelves carved from obsidian. Candles hovered in the air, flickering without flames. And in the corner, Clover, in cat form, watching with eyes far too knowing. Tonight, Andrea said. I won't resist you. If you ask me to stop, I will. But if you don't, her voice trailed off, thick with meaning. Then what? Lena asked, stepping closer. Andrea's eyes darkened. Then I'll show you what it means to be claimed by a creature who hasn't touched warmth in centuries. Lena's breath caught. Then don't stop. The space between them vanished. Andrea's hands were everywhere, gentle, reverent, hungry. She kissed Lena like a storm breaking open the world, and Lena answered with fire, threading her fingers into Andrea's hair, pulling her closer, deeper. They sank into the velvet, breath and skin, and silk blending together. Andrea's mouth moved down Lena's neck, lips brushing the mark. This, she whispered, means more than you know. Then show me, Lena begged. Let me feel it. Andrea did. Every touch, every sigh, every ache and surrender was a dance between damnation and devotion. It wasn't rough, it was consuming. As if Andrea had spent lifetimes holding back, and now every barrier had been burned away. Lena felt herself unravel, her body no longer hers, but theirs. She whispered Andrea's name like a prayer, and Andrea said hers like a promise. When it was over, they lay tangled together, breathless, hearts racing in sync. Andrea's fingers traced idle circles on Lena's bare back. I've never shared this bed, she said softly. Not with anyone since Celine. Does it feel wrong? Lena asked, half asleep. No, Andrea murmured. It feels terrifying. Because I don't want to lose you. Then don't. It's not always my choice, Andrea whispered. The curse is shifting. It reacts to love, to vulnerability. It senses your presence. And now Celine does too. Let her rage, Lena said. You're mine now. Andrea looked down at her, her expression one of both awe and fear. Say that again. Lena leaned up, kissed her throat, her jaw, her lips. You're mine. Andrea closed her eyes. Then gods forgive what I'll do to keep it that way. Lena dreamt in velvet and fire. Not like before. Not the soft, distorted dreams of her old life, where memories blurred and dissolved by morning. These were dreams that bled into reality, that held weight and texture and scent. She felt herself walking through corridors she had never seen but somehow knew. The floor beneath her bare feet was wet, slick with something warm. The walls breathed, pulsing like lungs. In the distance, she heard whispers, not words, but sounds that tugged at the edges of understanding, calling her forward, deeper, closer. She moved without choice, without will. Her white nightdress clung to her skin, as if she had walked through rain. Her hair dripped. Her skin tingled. Ahead, she saw her. Not Andrea. Not exactly. The woman wore Andrea's face, but softer, younger, her eyes still blue instead of crimson. She stood beneath a weeping willow, her hands cupping the face of another woman. Black-haired. Cold. Hungry. Celine. Lena stopped walking, but her dream self kept moving. She watched as Andrea kissed Celine with a kind of hunger that didn't belong to love. It was survival. It was war disguised as intimacy. And then, Andrea opened her eyes, and they were glowing, blood red. And the dream changed. The world split. Celine turned toward her. Not dream Celine. Not memory Celine. But Celine now. Her eyes found Lena's in the dark. Her voice echoed, without lips moving. You taste like her. But you won't end like her. You'll be mine, too. Lena woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat. The room around her was not hers. Not the velvet room where she had fallen asleep in Andrea's arms. It was darker, quieter. The walls had no texture, no breath. For a moment, she thought she had woken in death. And then a shape moved at the foot of the bed. A black cat, Clover, watching her, protecting her, or warning her. Her body trembled as she sat up. She touched her neck. The mark was burning softly, but steadily. A heartbeat against her skin. She turned to find Andrea, but the bed beside her was empty. Cold. And the silence was unnatural. She stood. The floor was warm beneath her feet, but everything else felt wrong. Still, the house was waiting. She followed the pull, through the hallway where portraits whispered her name, past mirrors that no longer reflected her entirely. She didn't stop until she reached the library. Andrea stood at the window, dressed in black and silver, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She didn't turn when Lena entered. "You dreamed of her," Andrea said. Not a question. "Yes." "She's not bound to flesh anymore," Andrea whispered. "She's something else now. Dreamwalker. Soul drinker. Her essence drifts in the places where the veil is thin. And last night you let her in." "I didn't mean to." "It doesn't matter. Intent means nothing in the language of curses." Lena stepped closer. "Andrea, look at me." Andrea turned. Her face was paler than usual, her eyes rimmed with sleepless shadows. "She was mine once. And now she wants what's mine again. I'm not hers. You might not have a choice." "Yes, I do," Lena said fiercely. "I chose you." Andrea stared at her, something cracking in her expression. "Don't say that unless you're ready to bleed for it." "Then bleed with me," Lena whispered. "Or let me bleed for you." Andrea crossed the room in a blink, her hands cupping Lena's face. "Don't tempt me like this. You said I changed something in you. Then let it change you completely." Andrea kissed her. Harder this time. Desperate. Their bodies met again in a collision of heat and fear and promise. But this time, it wasn't silk and softness. This time, it was teeth and claw. Andrea's hunger showed. Her restraint frayed. Lena welcomed it. Every shiver, every gasp, every moment where Andrea's lips hovered over her throat like a war waiting to happen. "Bite me," Lena begged. "Not yet." "Why not?" "Because I don't want your love to be laced with magic." "It already is." Andrea froze. "What?" "I feel her in my dreams. But I feel you when I'm awake. The mark, it's more than just a bond. Isn't it?" Andrea nodded slowly. "It's a beacon. It lets me find you. It lets the house protect you. But it also lets others see you. Then maybe it's time I stop hiding." Andrea touched her chest, above her heart. "This part of you, it's still untouched by the dark. I want to protect that. I want to keep it safe. But I know I can't." "Then don't protect me," Lena said. "Fight beside me." A silence passed between them, and in that silence, thunder rolled above the mansion. The sky had darkened. The walls groaned. "She's coming," Andrea said. "Tonight? Soon." Andrea led her to a circular chamber beneath the house, a sanctuary of stone and runes, carved into the roots of the mansion itself. There, she lit candles with her fingertips, painted protective symbols onto Lena's arms, and whispered words in a language older than time. "This will shield your soul," she said. "But it won't stop your heart from hearing her. I only want to hear you." Andrea's hands trembled as she tied the final cord of the ritual around Lena's wrist. "I never wanted to love again," she whispered. "And now it's all I can think about." Lena touched her face. "Then stop thinking." That night, sleep came like falling into ink. The dreams returned. But this time, Lena was ready. Celine waited, lounging on a throne made of bone and roses, her voice honeyed and cruel. "She's unraveling," Celine said. "You feel it. Her hunger. Her weakness. She's soft because of you. And I'm stronger because of her," Lena replied. "Are you?" Celine stood, circled her. "Because I see pieces of you now. Cracks. Desire. Doubt. You wonder what it would feel like to be me, to hold power like a god, to never beg, to never be hurt. You know nothing about what I want." "Oh, but I do," Celine whispered, pressing close. "Because a part of Andrea still belongs to me, and that part aches for you." Lena shoved her back. "She made her choice." "Did she?" Celine asked, vanishing into mist. "Or are you just the newest song in a centuries-long lullaby?" Lena woke with a scream. Andrea was already there, arms around her, grounding her. "She spoke to you again?" "She tried to turn me." Andrea's face hardened. "And did she?" "No," Lena whispered, clinging to her. but she knows how to find the cracks. Then I'll make you unbreakable, Andrea vowed. And the mansion trembled, as if it believed her. The fourth night did not arrive quietly. The wind began hours before dusk, howling through the cracks of the city like something mourning or something hunting. Lena stood by her apartment window, watching the sky darken unnaturally fast, clouds curling like ink spilled across the heavens. Her fingers trembled, but not from fear. She felt something shifting inside her, like threads being pulled too tight, like the air itself was pressing against her skin, whispering tonight. Clover sat at her feet, tail wrapped neatly, golden eyes fixed on the horizon. You feel it too, don't you? She murmured. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. When she turned away, she swore she heard his voice in her mind. Just one word. Run. But it was far too late for that. The mansion wasn't waiting tonight. It pulled her the moment her hand touched the doorknob. She didn't walk through the streets. She blinked, and she was already there. The gates open, the path lit, the house groaning with something alive and ancient and awakening. Inside, the air was thicker. The walls pulsed faintly, shadows crawling. She ran. Not out of panic, but urgency. Andrea was here. She had to be. Lena found her in the main hall, standing atop the grand staircase like a storm wrapped in flesh. Her eyes burned red, her gown black as night, her hair a halo of dark flame. She's here, Andrea said before Lena could speak. Celine crossed the boundary. She's flesh again. Somehow. How? Lena asked. You said she didn't have a body anymore. She took something. Or someone, Andrea hissed. I felt the balance shift. She's stronger than she should be. Thunder cracked directly overhead. The chandeliers flickered violently. And then everything stopped. The air froze. The candles extinguished. Silence. And then a voice. Sultry. Smooth. Familiar. You always did underestimate me, my love. Celine stepped through the shadows at the end of the hall, her body fully formed, draped in a gown of red smoke and silver chains. Her eyes glowed like moons, her smile curved like a blade. Andrea moved instantly, placing herself between Lena and the intruder. This is your final warning, Celine. Leave. Now. You used to beg me to stay, Celine purred, walking slowly up the stairs. But now you'd cast me out for this mortal thing? Her eyes flicked to Lena, and something sharp passed through her expression. Jealousy, hunger, something older than either. You smell like her blood, Celine said. But your soul is still unclaimed. Curious. Stay away from her, Andrea growled. Or what? Celine smiled, baring her teeth. You'll finally let the monster out? I should have ended you centuries ago. You did. But darling, love has a way of resurrecting the damned. And then she moved, faster than Lena could see. One moment, she was at the bottom of the stairs. The next, her hand was on Andrea's throat, slamming her back against a pillar, cracking it. Andrea roared, her fangs bared, her eyes flaring to full fire. She threw Celine across the hall with a scream that shook the walls. Celine landed, laughed, and lunged again. They clashed in midair, two storms colliding, flashes of light, bursts of magic, blood-slick hands and clawed strikes. Lena watched in frozen awe and horror as the women she had touched, kissed, loved, turned into gods before her. Furniture exploded. Paintings wept. The ceiling cracked. Blood splattered across the marble. Andrea pinned Celine to the floor, snarling. She is not yours. She's not yours either, Celine hissed. You don't own her. No, Andrea whispered. But she chose me, and I would burn this house down before I let you take her. Lena stepped forward, unable to watch in silence. Stop. The sound of her voice echoed unnaturally loud, like the mansion itself carried it, magnified it. Both vampires froze, turned to look at her. Lena's eyes were glowing. She didn't understand how, but she felt it, power surging through her veins, ancient and sharp. The mark on her neck pulsed like a second heart. This ends tonight, she said. No more curses. No more chains. Oh. Celine asked, wiping blood from her mouth. And what will you do, little candle? Burn me? No, Lena whispered. But I will refuse you. And that's worse. Celine flinched. A flicker of something hurt.
Real.
You don't even know what I was. What I sacrificed for her. You think you're special? No, Lena said. But I'm enough. Andrea moved toward her, blood staining her dress, her lips split, one eye already healing. Lena, don't. She'll twist your mind if you let her in. She already tried, Lena said. But you're the one who made me feel strong. Celine snarled, stepping forward. Then die with her. She raised her hand. A blade of shadow formed, long and curved. Lena didn't move. She felt no fear. Just heat. Just clarity. The blade flew. Andrea screamed. And then Clover leapt. The cat, no, the creature, transformed midair. From feline to something massive, monstrous, wolf-like and winged, eyes blazing gold. He intercepted the shadow, devouring it in a burst of white flame. Celine stumbled back, screaming.
No.
Not him. Not again. Clover landed beside Lena, now a towering beast made of silver bone and light. He growled, and the sound cracked the walls. Celine tried to vanish, but Andrea moved faster. She grabbed Celine by the throat, pressed her against the broken wall. This ends now. Do it, Celine hissed. Be the monster. Andrea looked at Lena. Her voice broke. I don't want her blood on your hands. Then take mine instead, Lena said softly. Make it a bond. End the curse. No, Andrea breathed. It could kill you. Or it could save us both. Andrea looked torn, between agony and love. Then slowly she turned. Release Celine.
Go, she said.
If you ever return, I will not spare you again. Celine vanished, her scream echoing like shattered glass. Silence fell. Clover shifted back, weak, collapsing beside Lena. She caught him in her arms. Andrea fell to her knees. Blood, breath, chaos. But they were alive. Together. You could have died, Andrea whispered. But I didn't, Lena said. Because I belong to this house now. To you. Andrea looked up, tears mixing with blood.
No.
You don't belong to me. She reached forward, cradled Lena's face. You belong with me. And then, finally, she bit her. Gently. Reverently. Acclaiming. A blessing. A beginning. The morning after the storm was not gentle. It rose like smoke from the ruins of something sacred. Lena awoke not in the mansion, nor in her apartment, but in the in-between, a chamber of white stone and gold threads, the ceiling open to a sky that shifted through memories, blood-red clouds, starlit oceans, glowing forests that no longer existed. Andrea lay beside her, eyes closed, skin pale but peaceful. There was no bed, no floor. Only warmth and breath. The mark on Lena's neck burned, but not with pain. With life. With connection. Her body pulsed in tune with something far older than magic. She sat up slowly, brushing her fingers through Andrea's hair. Are you awake? I never sleep. Not really, Andrea murmured, eyes opening. But I wanted to pretend, just once.
With you.
Where are we? The heart of the house, Andrea whispered. Where all 7 doors lead. You crossed 6 already, without knowing. But now we're here. The last night. The final bond. If we survive this, the curse breaks. And if we don't? Andrea's smile was faint, reverent. Then we fade together. And that, at least, would be honest. Lena took her hand. I didn't come this far to fade. Andrea stood, barefoot, her black dress melting into something translucent, weightless. Then come with me. They walked together through a corridor that didn't exist in any physical space. Each step left behind ripples of memory, flashes of Lena as a child, alone in the rain. Andrea centuries ago, kneeling at the edge of a battlefield. Celine, standing before a mirror, lips painted in blood, whispering Andrea's name like a curse. Doors lined the path. Some broken. some sealed, some whispering promises Lena didn't dare listen to. Why me? Lena asked softly. Of all the people in the world, why did the house choose me? Because you didn't want anything, Andrea said. And everything in this place was built by people who wanted too much. The house saw you take an accursed thing and ask for nothing. That kind of soul, it's rare. And dangerous. Dangerous? Andrea nodded. Because it can change even the oldest monsters. They stopped in front of the 7th door. It was made of black glass and white bone. A lock pulsed in the center, shaped like the mark on Lena's skin. Only you can open it, Andrea said. And once it opens, it can't be closed. Lena took a breath, pressed her hand to the lock. Pain flared, sharp and clean, like the slicing of a thread. The door opened, and the mansion exhaled. On the other side was not a room. It was truth. All of it. The origin of the curse. The first blood spilled. The moment Andrea chose power over love. The echo of Celine's scream when she died. The shadow of Clover, Maris, offering his soul to buy Andrea's freedom. It swirled around them, a storm of memory and sorrow. And then the voice. To break the curse, a choice must be made. Lena and Andrea stood still. One must forget. The words rang out like bells struck with knives. One must surrender the memory of love, so the other may live in it. No, Lena said immediately. There has to be another way. Andrea's face had gone still. There isn't. I've always known this. You didn't tell me. Because I hoped selfishly that we'd never get this far. Choose. No, Lena repeated. We both fought for this. We both bled. There is no love without memory. Andrea stepped forward. Then I'll be the one to forget. Andrea, let me do this. You'll live. You'll remember. That's enough. But I won't have you. You'll have what matters. No, Lena said, her voice breaking. I don't want to survive you. I want to be with you. Even if it means darkness. Even if it means sacrifice. Andrea cupped her face, eyes brimming with something too old to name. I've lived for centuries without feeling. And now I've felt too much. Then let it break you, Lena whispered. And we'll build something from the pieces. The storm around them howled. The voice echoed again. Choose. Lena closed her eyes. And in the moment before she answered, Clover appeared. But not as the beast. As Maris. A man with eyes like starlight and hair like shadow. There's another way, he said. The curse fed on grief. On the illusion that love must always end in loss. But you've proven otherwise. He turned to Andrea. You gave me centuries. Let me give you this. Maris, no. I've already been broken, he said gently. Let me do something beautiful with it. He stepped into the storm. The light around him grew unbearable. Lena screamed. Andrea fell to her knees. And then, silence. The curse shattered like glass dropped from heaven. The storm dispersed. The 7th door collapsed into dust. The mansion sighed. Andrea looked up, trembling. He's gone. No, Lena said, voice shaking. He's free. And then light. Real, golden light. Morning. For the first time in centuries, the sun rose over the mansion. And it did not burn. The shadows didn't flee. They shimmered. The walls stopped breathing. The house was no longer alive. It was simply a home. Days passed. The mansion healed. Andrea changed. Her eyes no longer glowed unless she wanted them to. Her touch was warm. Her laughter came easier. And Lena? She stayed.
Not because she had to.
But because there was nowhere else she belonged. On the 7th night, they stood in the garden again. The roses had changed. No longer silver. Now deep red.
Alive. This is yours now, Andrea said.
The house. The garden. My heart. Then you'd better start watering me, Lena teased. Because I intend to bloom. Andrea smiled. Forever. Longer, Lena whispered. And then they kissed. Not as vampire and mortal. Not as cursed and savior. But as two women who had defied fate, death, and time for something terrifying and beautiful.
Love.
And this time it didn't end. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.